Avoid ultra-processed foods. 5 simple steps for better health. I'm Hamza Aziz, the producer of the Talking with Dogs podcast. You might know Talking with Dogs from their popular YouTube channel. Processed foods can wreck your health. Here's how to cut them out of your life and eat better.
Ultra-processed foods. Hear that term UPFs, ultra-processed. Sounds bad. Seems like people are not super happy with it. But it also seems like it's kind of everywhere, and most people probably can't avoid it on a daily basis.
Do you feel strongly about this topic?
So you know what? Yes, but I mean, I'm not immune. Like I think we all eat processed, refined, ultra-processed food. We're going to talk about the definitions, and I think I strive to eat less of it, but it's difficult.
It's an important topic. Okay.
Welcome
to Talking with Docs.
I'm Dr. Brad Whitney.
And I'm Dr. Paul Zalatan.
Okay, ultra-processed foods.
All right, so
let's start at the beginning.
Let's talk about food processing.
Okay. How did we get here? Why do we process food?
Okay.
Like, you mean food processors?
Yeah, no, just food processing.
Okay,
Why do we process food?
Yeah,
we had to, or we wouldn't be here.
Right.
The human race would not exist if we didn't figure out how to process food thousands of years ago.
Okay.
Okay, because if you go on a ship to go explore,
right,
you don't have a farm with you.
Right.
You have to learn how to take food with you and how to make that food last.
So under processing is preservation.
Preservation, that's how it started, right?
Yes.
Because either you're going to eat this processed beef jerky I got on this boat, or you're going to die.
Right.
You choose.
Right.
So we had to figure out how to process food to make it last longer so that we didn't get sick and die.
Or you're going to get scurvy.
Scurvy, bring those limes with you. Bring the vitamin C.
Yeah.
Right. So we figured out thousands of years ago that we had to process food in some way so that we could survive when we go on our trips, when we go on our journeys, or during the winter months and stuff like that.
We're going to explore.
That's what I don't.
Saturday morning. That's you. Going up for your trail run.
Let's see if I can find new land for my family.
That's right.
All right. Okay, so it took a turn over the decades and centuries.
Yeah, so like in the 1800s, that's when things started to kind of cook a little bit, right?
Yeah.
They said, okay, let's process some stuff, let's refine some stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Christopher Columbus doesn't need it for his ship.
Nope.
But I needed to sell more bread or whatever.
Yep.
So that the companies
or cereal
can make some profits.
We're going to do a whole video on cereal. I don't even want to talk too much about it because cereal really makes people angry, and a lot of people think it's good for you. And all interesting, Mr. Kellogg actually had some really noble goals. He was a physician, actually wanted to create like a low sugar food for his patients, and then it just got down the wrong path.
Dr. K. All right, so what happened? Where are we now compared to where we used to process food to increase its shelf life so that we could survive as a race?
Right, so in probably between the First and Second World War, things really changed where it was a lot about convenience, about practicality, and it was seen as a way that our society was moving forward, almost like a badge. And you had people over, you're like, you know what, let's get some ultra-processed food. We can just get rid of everything afterwards, and because it's already ready, I don't have to have pots and pans and stuff. So that's kind of when it started to become a problem. Some people feel like as more people started to join the workforce, so men and women, so everybody in the family was working, there were the dual incomes. People came home, they had time constraints. They said, we need something that's easy. How about a TV dinner?
Okay, there you go. So there's a spectrum of processing, okay? You process food when you're making a meal, okay? So let's go through that quickly so that people understand the different levels of processing so we can focus on what's good and what's not good.
There's kind of like 4 levels, right?
There's 4 levels, the NOVA classification system. It's important to classify this stuff because if we want to study it and see the health effects, we have to be able to talk to each other as researchers and say, okay, these people had level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and we'll correlate that with death.
Okay. Number one is really unprocessed food. That's where you're going to go to the grocery store, you're going to buy bananas, you're going to buy apples, you're going to buy brockle. Or maybe even more, you're going to go to the field. You're going to go to the jungle. Like really, truly no processing.
Forget the grocery store.
Yeah,
you're going to go out to the park. And
because the apple arguably might have been sprayed with something to prevent it from ripening on transport.
Sure, it's processed to a certain degree.
Yes.
Our modern time equivalent of unprocessed food is those Whole Foods.
Got it.
Okay. Level 1.
Okay, so the second one is like processed culinary ingredients.
Right.
So what does this mean?
So these are things that you took from group 1, you process them in such a way so that they can be added as ingredients. These are things like sugar.
So sugar cane would be 1. Sugar is 2.
There, right. Sugar cane.
Got it.
You've got things like butter and other sort of, ingredients, like oils, for example, that you took group 1s and you made oils out of them.
Got it.
And then you add them, so you can add them to your meal when you're cooking and preparing
Okay.
your meal. That's
Number
your-
3.
Number 3, now we're calling it processed food.
Right.
That's where you took the stuff in group 2
Okay.
and added it to group 1.
1 plus 2 does equal 3, so it works out
in
nicely.
this case, that's how you remember. In this case,
Okay.
so it's processed foods. It's processed in the sense that we're adding salts to it, we're adding sugars to it, and we're trying to make the food more palatable.
Okay.
Then we get into the bad actor.
Okay.
Number 4.
Okay. Is the ultra processed food. And so, just for people to know, can you read the definition of ultra processed food?
I would love to.
Okay.
I think I have it here somewhere.
I think, to be honest, that there's one word that really gets me early on in the definition. Here we go.
The definition, these are industrial formulations. Is that what you're looking
Industrial bothers me. Yeah.
for? Okay. Industrial formulations of multiple ingredients, often with additives that are highly processed to enhance flavor, texture, and shelf life.
Right. And this is very intentional, right? And some you
Yeah.
could say, oh, it's altruistic. We're trying to make
Yeah.
the food last longer.
Yeah.
But then food science and companies, in order to sell you more food, have really manipulated sugar and salt, fats, even the way that something sits on your palate, so its texture and
Yeah.
its feel, as well as its color.
And because you've taken the food preparation out of the kitchen
Yeah.
that you're making for yourself, for your family, and you put it into industry. Once
Yeah.
you get into industry, there's competing interests.
Yeah.
And the interest of your health is usually lower down on that interest totem pole
Yeah.
and profits and sales, and those are the most important things.
Yeah.
And we're all guilty of it. I buy stock. I'm in the
Sure.
stock market. You buy stock
Sure.
in Coca-Cola, or you buy stock in a company whose entire line of work is processing food.
Yeah.
And they don't go to the board meeting and say, "Hey, we did something really healthy. We made we lost a bit of money last quarter, but we made the population healthy." That's not going to get investors. It's all about profits. It's all about sales.
Yes.
So therefore, their goal is to make the food taste better, last longer, and sell more.
I would say there is a small percentage of companies though that are looking for things like clean, organic,
Sure.
and that's getting a little bit of momentum.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not easy.
And they go out of business pretty fast.
Not all the time, but sometimes for sure.
All right.
Okay,
So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4 level of process.
Right.
So
So-
you process food at home. You are guilty of processing food, but it's okay. You need to.
So let's give a list of some things that would be considered ultra processed foods, just so people have an idea of kind of what are we talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so number one, I'm going to say, we're going to quickly get it out of the way, is cereal. So cereal, the vast majority of cereals are considered processed because they come from refined grains and they have a lot of added sugar, and sometimes they have crunch enhancers, just like in Christmas Vacation, Clark,
There's
non-nutritive
food additive.
food additive.
Oh, the crunch enhancer? Yeah, it's a non-nutritive cereal varnish.
Made his toboggan go wicked
That's
fast.
right. Yeah, so there you go. That's number one.
Cereal saddens me because I have a bowl of cereal in the morning. And now
Yeah.
I will not enjoy Raisin Bran. I love Raisin Bran.
Yeah, so some
Cannot
of them, I'd say some of the ones that have less refined grains can be good for you with less added sugar. But yes, they still probably fall under that, at least the processed, maybe not the ultra processed. But yeah,
My favorite example of the processed food is the hot dog.
hot dog, yes.
It looks nothing like what it came from, the ingredients. It is a fully processed meat tube.
Yes,
It's a tube of meat that's been processed.
for sure. Things
then-
like instant noodles, like
Sure.
ramen. It's instant because of primarily the fats and the salts that are used, as well as the noodle itself is made of usually ultra refined grain.
Okay. Processed cheese.
Okay.
Whether that be a slice or a powder that's
And this
added
is
to-
not a surprise to anyone. The
Yeah.
color is just clearly not natural when it looks orange. When you go to like a sporting event and you get that really bright orange cheese, you
Yeah.
think, this doesn't look like cheese, really.
But to be fair to the cheese people, that's probably the most honest one because they call it processed cheese.
They
We're
do.
not
It's
allowed-
right in the name.
We're telling you. Look,
right
this
in
is
the name.
processed cheese.
Okay.
We're telling you.
So the classic Friday is the pop, the chocolate bar, and the chips, ultra processed, ultra processed, ultra processed.
What about the case of beer with it? Is that processed?
Well, I think you could argue that.
It
To
is
be honest, you could
processed,
argue
yeah.
that. Yeah, whether it's processed or ultra processed, I think that's probably debatable.
Okay. There's a billion examples of these
yeah.
things. Okay. Why are they bad for us? Why are they bad for us?
So I think the short answer is 100% yes, they're
100%.
bad for us.
And this is an article that kind of got me going. It's just out from last month.
Okay.
It's from the J. Acad Nutri Diet.
Oh, the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
That's
Yeah, we
the
get
one.
that one at our house.
I bet you do.
Nice light
I bet
read.
you contribute to that one monthly.
Like, I'm always writing letters to it like, Brad,
Yeah.
stop sending us letters.
That's right. And this article is entitled Association Between Ultra-Processed Foods, so that's number 4 on our NOVA classification,
Yep.
And mortality, death,
I know.
among U.S.
This was a
adults.
shocking number, actually, to
It's
me.
a prospective cohort study of the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey from 2003 to 2018.
Yeah. And so what did it find?
Well, the way they looked at it was they looked at what percentage of your energy consumption comes from processed foods. You eat food for energy.
Yeah.
So they looked at your percentage of energy consumption that comes from processed foods. And don't forget, processed foods are energy dense. They are.
This is one of the ways that they hijack us.
Yeah, if
100%.
you want to gain weight, eat only processed foods.
Energy dense, often nutritionally deficient.
Right. So for every 10% increase in your percentage of energy that comes from processed foods, the chance of you dying goes up 9%. It's almost 1-to-1.
not
You can
good.
remember like 10 and 10.
Yeah.
Okay. You eat 10% more calories from your processed food.
Yeah.
There's a 10% higher chance of you dying than the person who ate 10% less
Right.
than you.
And I read a couple of different studies on what percentage the average person in North America is eating from ultra-processed food. And I saw anywhere between 50 and 73% of your total calories for the day, which is disturbing.
Yeah.
But it speaks to the busy lives that we lead, and maybe time to consider a shift.
It's not impossible. If you're like on the road, if you're in sales, if you're in a business where meals and entertaining is part of that, you're going to a restaurant, you're not eating whole foods, you're eating processed food.
And it's kind of not even your fault, to be honest. The way they're manufactured, they talk about kind of hedonic centers, where the pleasure center, they put things in it that make it more pleasurable, that allow you to ignore your satiety, that eat more than you need. And there's actually a really interesting study, a really well-controlled, randomized controlled trial, where 20 people had their food controlled for them. For 2 weeks, they had ultra-processed food, and for 2 weeks, they had macronutrient matched, but calorically similar whole foods. They weren't told how much to eat. What they looked at and found is that after the 2 weeks on the ultra-processed food, people ate 500 extra calories per day, gaining 2 pounds over the 2 weeks on the ultra-processed foods. They actually ate more, not just because of the number of calories that were in the food, but because they just kept eating. Then when they converted over to the whole food diet, they not only lost those 2 pounds, but they lost an additional pound. So whole food, primarily plant, like a lot of plants, or plant-heavy diet, caused them to lose the weight that they gained as well as lose other weight. And it was a really, really well done trial. We can link it as well. That shows this clearly makes you heavier, and it's not even really your fault.
No, it's not your fault.
And so what kind of problems does it cause? Ultra-processed foods, what are they linked to?
I'll tell you.
name it.
I'll tell you, it caused a problem for me because last night I ate a bowl of chips.
Okay.
We are not immune to this. We are guilty of this
100%.
too. I just ate a bowl of sour cream and onion chips, my favorite chips.
What's your favorite? Nice.
I love them. When I
Okay.
eat them, I want to eat more.
Like right.
Right? And I fall for it too. So
Right.
let's look at things we can do, things I can do to try and reduce the amount of processed food that we're getting into our body.
Okay.
Number 1, read the label.
Sure.
If you're gonna buy something, read the label. If you see words you can't pronounce,
Agreed.
chemicals you've never heard of,
Or too many ingredients.
if someone had a bowl of that chemical there, you wouldn't go eat it.
Right.
So that's one indicator that you're eating something that's too processed.
Okay.
Read the label.
Number 2, try cooking at home. So rather than going out to eat, restaurant food, we all like it, but it is filled with all of these things. So the salt, the sugar, the fat, the refined foods.
Okay, you're gonna go out to restaurants
Sure.
every now and again.
Make it every now and then.
Yeah, just don't do it twice a day.
Yes.
Choose whole foods. Okay.
seems so obvious.
Yeah, don't buy the hot dogs. Buy, if you're a meat eater.
What if
buy
you eat the whole
steak.
hot dog?
The whole hot.
Is that a whole food?
That's not a whole food. No.
Okay.
It's a tube of meat.
It's
It's
a
a tube
tube,
of
it's a meat
random
tube.
meat and chemicals.
Yeah, there's some funny movies where they show raccoons talking about hot dogs and what goes in them. It's not appropriate, but it's very interesting. Okay, number 4, try to avoid, which is maybe not realistic, but limit the amount of junk food they have. So cookies, even like granola bars, pop, chips. Try to limit that kind of stuff. You can't, going to zero is probably not practical because it's too hard on you. You'll feel deprived, but try to limit this.
You're killing me, especially when we're on call, right? You're
Right?
on call, your case gets
You feel
bumped.
sad for yourself.
You're hanging
like,
around
"Oh,
the hospital.
man."
There's not a lot of,
Holiday season is really tough. There's chocolates everywhere. Everyone's got something here, there.
Just try and be aware of how much junk food you're eating and try and minimize it and control a little bit.
Okay.
And this is a good one. Number 5 is because these meals, the whole food meals and the not going out to eat are tricky to do, plan your meals.
Yes.
Plan ahead. On the weekend, figure out what you're going to do. Stick it in the freezer, which is a form of processing, just stick it in the freezer.
But it's a good kind.
It's a good kind.
Yep.
Prepare your meals so you can have something for the week that's healthy.
And we are busy, and certainly food companies know this, and they capitalize on this with the convenience of all these kinds of foods, right?
Yeah.
A frozen pizza, that's on that list of ultra-processed foods. It is just not good for you. Refined grains, processed cheese, processed meat, it's just lots of salt, fat, it's just not good for you. So
Process this. If you increase your calorie intake by 10% from processed foods, your chance of dying goes up 9%.
Shocking. And the things that we didn't get into the details of kind of the metabolic or physical problems that you get, but if you name it, so inflammation, oxidative stress, metabolic health, cardiovascular disease, cancer, fertility, you name it, it is implicated and negatively affected by consuming ultra-processed foods.
Sorry to be the downers, but
It's a lot.
on the bright side, there's a good way to be healthy. Just follow those 5 steps.
And it seems easy. And I think this also leads into one of our other videos where we talked about plastics. If you do this thing, usually you're going to consume less plastic too. By buying whole foods, having less packaging, that kind of stuff, you're going to be exposed to less plastic, which also is good for you.
It's a win-win.
Now you know. Leave a comment. Let us know your favorite, guilty pleasure ultra-processed food, as well as what you do in your home to try to get you or your family to consume less ultra-processed
Yeah, if there's
foods.
something you love and you just have to have,
Share it.
share how you limit it so you can still enjoy it every now and again, but you're not
Yes.
binging on it every day.
I know.
Remember, you are in charge of your own health.
We'll see you next time.